All right, welcome back, everybody. We're here for our lightning talk session. So we have five speakers, and each of them is going to get about 8 minutes to present and then 1 minute for questions. So I will be timing. I'm going to have a little stopwatch going on my phone. Let me get that ready to go. All right, so timer. We want 9 or 8 minutes. And I will start the timer once I hand off to each person. So we're going to do them in the order listed here. And I'm not going to waste a lot of time with introductions because we do have limited time for these. But their introductions are in the site if you want to read more about our speakers. So our first presenter is going to talk to us about the Microsoft Teams integration. So that's Marc Oller and Juan Manuel Rubiales from EDF. So they are going to be talking to us about Microsoft. Let's see, Marc or
Yeah,
Juan,
I'm here.
can you guys present, or do you need me to hand off presenter to you? I'm going to stop sharing.
I think I cannot start screen share.
Right. Try now that I've stopped sharing. Are you able to start?
Mm, oh, I think the
Okay, let
the
me.
screen share pop-up is not
Okay,
showing.
I'm going to make you co-host and see if you're able to see the share button now in Zoom.
Let me. Oh, okay, let me
You
check.
see it?
Let me refresh the web probably. Let me check. Yeah, I can share right
Okay,
now.
and feel free to share your video too. I will turn mine off temporarily.
Oh, yeah, sure. Okay, so you can see screen with no problems.
Yes, seeing your screen and I'm starting your timer.
Okay, perfect. So I'm Marc Oller. I work at EDF, and we are going to show you, me and Juan Manuel later on, some improvements we have developed for Sakai. In this case, I'm going to talk about the Microsoft integration tool. This is a feature that was already in the Sakai ecosystem, but right now is more powerful. Um, I will talk. I will make it fast. I will talk about a little bit what's the Microsoft integration tool, the goals and the motivation, and later on, I will introduce a little bit the first steps how to configure this tool in Sakai, and I will talk a little bit about all the improvements. That is the main improvement was the batch processing and also the UI UX improvements. And the Microsoft integration tool is a feature that allows you to bind and migrate all your courses and your groups from Sakai to Microsoft. This is so useful if you want to use all the ecosystem of Microsoft, for example, the meetings, the calendar, you want to have all of this in both systems. And also in the whole process, we try to to register every action that is running in the process of the Microsoft integration tool. The previous version was so poor, and that's one of the goals and the motivations that the previous version was not efficient as the new one, and was poor in the logging process. Our proposed solutions was to incorporate, instead of send each request for example, Microsoft integration tool, the previous version sent the courses one by one to Microsoft in order to create and to make the relations in both systems. Right now, we are using a new processing that you can send a pack of 20 events, of 20 objects in a request. So we are speeding up the process a lot. And we also make the interface more attractive, more interactive, and we try to put all the features, the new features here. This development has been funded, and we work together with Universitat of Lleida and the S2U group from Spain. The first step to set up this tool is basically the same as if you used this tool in the previous version is the same. You just have to put your credentials from Microsoft in this tab, and later on, once you have saved the configuration, you can test the credentials, and if you see this label, you will have all the system connected with no problems. And when you have all this system connected, you can start the batch process. You can start the migrations. This screen will appear once you go to the autoconfig tool in the same Microsoft integration tool, and will allow you to create the relation between courses and Microsoft Teams and channels. It's important if you want to in the future to make the synchronization and to have the same students and the same teachers in both platforms. Yeah, this is just asking when you can filter for your courses, and you can just select them if you want to start the relation of this. Once you have this selected, you will see the screen of the login process that we have improved. This is running through the new API batch request by a pack of 20. And you can see if you are creating the channels, you are integrating the groups. And once you have all this finished, you will see the process has finished, and you can refresh the screen, and you will have right now all your events, your site or your relations in the table. And here we also tried to improve the UI, putting all the processes that has run it in, even if you want one by one synchronization, or you can also do a cron task to run all the sites that you have specified. Once you have all of this process run, you can see all the results, all the log in his own site. For example, if we have this Microsoft test, we can see that it was not an OK, and you can spot the members that was not able that the synchronization was not able to get from Microsoft. And you can fix the issue, and you can run again this in this button, in the play button. You can run again and check if it's OK, and you can have both systems at the same period, in the same spot, in the same moment. This also uses the AP batch processing, and also is much faster than the previous version. And also we included new screens. This one is an updated from the last one, which you can also inside a channel, you can migrate new groups and other channels. You can create new channels inside a team, and you can migrate them, the groups with the channels. You can create the relations or erase previous relations that it's not right. And you can also in the table of all your relations, you can filter for periods or for properties, for Sakai properties. All of this is a brief explanation of all. But if you have more questions about this tool, you are free. Feel free to talk to us about EDF, and we will help you in every information more about this tool. If you have any question more, we can start the minute of questions and Q&A if you want.
Great. That was a lot to cover in a short amount of time. So
Yeah,
you did great
I,
run with your time. You still have 1 minute remaining, and then 1 minute for questions. So does anybody have a quick question for Marc? Okay, I see something from Dave. He wants to know if it replaces, let's see, does does Teams integrate with 23 or just 25?
Integrate with the new version of Sakai 25 is that's and yes,
Just 25 then.
yeah, and 23 is running also. We
Oh,
we
okay.
developed this tool. We improved this tool. We in Sakai 22, I think, and we ported to Sakai 23 and 25. It should
Okay.
work.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's not included in the core 23 build, but it can be added,
Yeah.
and it's included in 25.
Yeah.
All right, great. So I am going to cut you off and replace your share there for a moment,
Uh,
but thanks so
okay.
much. And please feel free to reach out to EDF if you guys have other questions that you think of later. Um,
Okay. Thank you.
thank you. All right, so our next lightning speaker is Mike Paulin and Tim Walker from Loyola University Chicago, and they're going to talk to us about optimizing Sakai performance by adopting a course retention policy. And I know I've worked with these guys; they've got it down to a science. So, Tim, would you like to do the screen share?
Yes.
All right, I'm going to make you. Um, yeah, okay. So let me stop my share, and you should be able to take over.
Okay.
Yep, I'm seeing your screen.
We're all good?
Yep, excellent. And I will
All right.
start the timer now.
Okay. Well, good morning, everybody. Wilma's asked us on more than one occasions to come share what we're doing on our end here. So this is the two of us. She kind of introduced us. So Mike and I and our bios are posted. So we'll kind of save time there. This is what we want to go over here real quick in our 8 minutes, how we adopted a policy here, the timeline and communication, and the technical implementation. Just a couple of notes of why we were really interested in a course retention policy. Other than the obvious to save on storage costs, we wanted to encourage faculty to review old course content. So was a method to do so. We wanted to limit faculty from making a copy of a copy of a copy of a course that it ended up with some technical issues, particularly as we move from version to version of Sakai, and then own internal identity management on there. Once a student matriculates out of the university, so graduates, or they end up transferring or leaving the university, what we refer to as a university ID or UVID, the first part of their email, is removed from our active directory, and in many cases will be reused. So we have Active Directory set up with Sakai to do that check, to pull that information in. Once that student is matriculated out or has left the university, what it does in old courses, it will create a orphaned link. So they'll just see a link and they won't see a name. So that has been confusing to faculty why they can't see that student. All right, so here's our policy adoption. So we landed on a 2-year course retention policy. It seemed to be provide enough access to previous courses, but not too lengthy where we would have that copy of a copy issue maybe present on there. We went to academic affairs, both the Dean's Council and a couple of other government groups. In 2016, it was subsequently approved. However, our provost postponed because there was a little pushback on faculty. They weren't ready to start. So it was postponed until the spring of 2018, which is where we launched. The process runs annually in July for us, and it removes 5 academic terms. Our terms are fall, winter. We have an intersession we call a J term, our spring, and our summer. We do have 3 different summer sessions, but they're all group or coded as one. And then we did work with Wilma, Sam, and others at Longsight to establish what that workflow would look like. So timeline and communication is a huge part of this process. So we want to stress here that student access to courses is already removed twice a year. So they were really out of scope for this process. So once in the fall and then again once in the spring, we work with Longsight to run a script that unpublishes those courses to remove the student view. As you can probably guess, that's for academic integrity purposes. So if two students are roommates, one is taking in the fall and the other one's taking the same course, same instructor in the spring, there is kind of that barrier in there where they're not sharing course content, one course removed and one not. So that's automatically removed from student access. So they are out of scope with this. And then we have an ITS website, as I'm sure all of you do, and that's updated each January, and it lists the 5 academic terms that we have scheduled for deletion. I'm going to turn it over right now to my colleague Mike, who's going to kind of walk you through the next couple bullets and some communication.
Yeah, so to continue the timeline, faculty received direct emails in June and July with instructions for backing up content that they may wish to retain, with detailed instructions on how to save gradebook data or course content. Additional reminders are shared through the monthly newsletter, as well as reminders on the Sakai login page, and users are also reminded verbally during relevant meetings to ensure that word gets out in every way possible. So if we go to the next slide, so this slide contains the first image, which is our website, which has the retention policy information and every set of courses that are being deleted. The next image is of the emails we send out with the same information on what's being deleted, how to retain it, and when it's happening. We find that communicating as much as possible helps prevent a flood of emails when the courses are first deleted. So if we go to the next slide then. So now we'll go over the implementation of our deletion process. The first step is to put in a ticket for change management with our help desk internally so that other parties in the school know what's happening. We then inform Longsight of the date and time that we want the soft deletion to happen. This is done by sending a file of all the courses for soft deletion to Longsight, where they run a program to switch the status of each of the courses. After this runs, we do a spot check to ensure the courses are soft deleted. One note on this process is nowhere in any of the messaging do we tell users that this is a soft deletion that's happening. This is to try to encourage the majority of users to copy their data in a timely manner, but should a user fall through the cracks, we hold off on the actual permanent deletion until 90 days after the soft deletion is communicated. This gives users who have failed to copy their materials a buffer. So if we get a ticket from a user panicked that all their materials are gone, we can restore their information in a timely manner and keep tabs on who's writing us, so if we get any repeat offenders, we know. When we give the users access to the materials, we manually mark the courses as not soft deleted, which restores their access. We then email the users saying that they have 7 days from when it's opened until it will be deleted again. On that 7-day mark, or sooner if we receive word from the user that they are done copying their information, we once again mark the course as soft deleted and remove their access. Finally, after the 90 days of soft deletion, we once again set up a change management ticket internally and contact Longsight and have them go through the process of permanently deleting the courses. This normally takes 7 to 10 days for the courses to be fully deleted. When we're informed that this is done, we do a spot check to confirm that the courses are deleted. And that should wrap up the process. And so if anybody has any questions, please let us know.
Yeah, awesome. You guys are doing so great, sticking to time. You have a minute left and then another minute for questions. And I did see several questions pop up in the chat. I believe Dave had a couple. Dave, do you want to just unmute and ask your question?
Yeah, so we have a similar course retention policy, but ours is actually any course that's older than 5 years. And so we actually retain courses for longer than the 2 years based on grade challenge issues, because students are going to do undergraduate coursework and then they do graduate coursework and that sort of thing. Part of my question had to do with how do you make sure that your grade policy, it's kind of the question I think that Sam sort of made mention of with regard to grade challenge issues and the alignment of that with regard to your retention policy. How did you, I mean, was that the sort of pushback that you got from faculty about trying to, that's why they were so hesitant to try and implement something, or?
No, our faculty just like to hold on to everything. Although we've now had this process in place for so long, we rarely get any. I mean, if we get 3 to 5 faculty coming in asking us for course content after the soft deletion, that's a lot for us at this point in time. Our final grades are kept in our student information system, PeopleSoft. So that's where they land. And yes, I think it's the 18-month window to petition a letter grade, so that easily fits into the 2 years that we have. And even though we say 2 years content, some of those, if we only do it once a year, a number of those courses are already really way over 2 years. It's more like 2.5, sometimes almost 3 years before those are deleted. So it's really only the spring term that just ended. That's a full 2 years out there. If you go backwards, the summer are really almost 3 years old by the time that we're deleting them. When we say soft deletion, Sam worked with us when we came up and say, hey, we would like to do something like this. It's really just removing role access, right? So instructor, TA, librarian, we have a number of other roles. So it looks to them that like the course is deleted. All we do is if they come back, we use the terminology recover, but we just add them back in the course and say, hey, you got 2 weeks to get what you want. Here's some instructions. You can schedule a consultation with one of us. We'll help you recover that content. And then we go in and remove them again. And then as Mike said, in 90 days, give or take, we'll work the second process of that and permanently delete that content. We've been really fortunate to have the support of the provost office and the rest of the academic units. It's really just a well-run machine right now. We don't get anything with it. And I would say the Zoom retention policy impacts more because we have 6 months with that. It has more of a possible impact with grading than the Sakai course content stuff.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, there's a ton of questions in the chat that I don't think we'll have time to get to because we're a little over time right now. But I do encourage you, Tim and Michael, to put your emails in the chat for folks who might want to reach out to you offline. And you can continue using the chat to ask some of those questions of our speakers throughout the rest of the lightning talks. But yes, you guys have a great process down, so definitely pick their brains on what you would like to maybe copy or modify for your own institution. So thank you both. All right, I'm going to take over the screen again for just a moment. And our next speaker is Stephanie Stocks from Turnitin. She's going to be talking to us about the LTI 1.3 new experience for Turnitin and Sakai. So let me find Stephanie in the list here. Stephanie, I know I saw you a minute ago. Let me find you. There you are. Okay. So I'm going to make you a co-host and you should be able to share your screen. And I'm going to stop sharing so that you can take over. And feel free to share your video. Yes, I'm seeing your slides.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. All right. I'll go ahead and start in. Good morning, everyone. I hope you are enjoying your Sakai conference. In today's lightning round talk, I wanted to share with you plans for Turnitin's LTI 1.3 integration in Sakai 25. Before we begin, I wanted to provide a bit of background on what LTI 1.3 is, just in case you were not familiar with it. It offers enhanced functionality and is a significant upgrade from LTI 1.1, adding new features for both administrators and users. It also offers improved security and privacy, leveraging the One EdTech security framework to ensure robust protection for passing personally identifiable information, or PII, thus minimizing risk to students and institutions. In addition, it offers a better integration across LMS platforms, decreasing the cost and time of integrating digital learning tools into an institution's learning ecosystem. For your institution, LTI 1.3 offers modern security protocols by providing the most robust security measures for passing PII between platforms, thus safeguarding student data. It supports OAuth 2.0 and JWT tokens to enable secure data transfer. It also offers a stronger ecosystem integration, helping to make a school's digital ecosystem more intuitive to integrate third-party resources, applications, and tools into your LMS. And it's an easier way to upgrade. It offers much of what schools love about LTI 1.1, but with new features and security protocols to simplify upgrading and migrating your integration. For instructors, LTI 1.3 offers streamlined workflows that allow users to launch different learning tools within the same LMS and move seamlessly between them, as well as optimized grading and feedback to pass back to that LMS, and advanced rostering capabilities, which syncs the course roster with the assignment inbox for transparency into student usage and assignment management. Because LTI 1.3 is the industry standard going forward, for Turnitin, all updates, enhancements, and features will be added to LTI 1.3 only. And that includes access to new products such as paper to digital, which is designed for handwritten work, Clarity, which is designed to provide transparency into the student writing process, and the next generation of Feedback Studio, all of which have just launched. It would also provide access to new tools such as Turnitin's assignment copy tool and the submission management tool. Access to features such as AI indicators and the submission list, group work, and multi-part assignments. Access to new grading and feedback tools such as automatic feedback summarization via AI and audio-video summary feedback, as well as all accessibility improvements. And we even have a public-facing roadmap of improvements that are underway currently and also planned into the next year. So what will Turnitin's LTI 1.3 integration look like in Sakai 25? Just like before with LTI, you create the assignment and enable Turnitin as an external tool from the dropdown, then select it from the menu itself. Please note that this does differ from the legacy workflow some of you may still be using. And once you finish filling out all the particulars of the Sakai assignment and you post it, you can click on the assignment and view the Turnitin settings to make any adjustments that you need there. When students start to submit, you will be able to see them in the submission inbox. This is similar to what LTI users have been seeing already, but again, different from what legacy users see. In this inbox, you can see who has submitted, who has not, if they've submitted late, if there are any flags such as hidden text in the paper, and you also have the ability to submit on behalf of the student, download the submission, remove it from the inbox, request the deletion of a paper that was stored in the repository by accident, and even the ability to resync the grade if needed. You also have the ability to download grading reports, the submission list, and all original files, in bulk or individually. And you have access to the assignment analytics, which is only available through LTI. So what should you be prepared for in moving to Turnitin's LTI 1.3 integration in Sakai? To move to LTI 1.3, you must also upgrade to Sakai 25. We are working with Dr. Chuck to make sure this integration meets the needs of our users. And we will begin communicating with clients that use Turnitin in October 2025, and we'll hold a joint webinar with Sakai in the fall to walk admins through the setup process, whether they are upgrading from LTI 1.1 to LTI 1.3, or migrating from legacy to LTI 1.3. Please note that the end of support date for both the LTI 1.1 integration and the legacy integration for Turnitin is June 30th, 2026, while the end of life date is December 31st, 2026. At this point, both integrations will cease to work. Now, we do have several support documents that are being put together right now. Here are web links to the upgrade or migration pages for your reference. All the documentation, as I said, will be added here as it's developed, and it will all be there in time for the fall webinar. So there's an upgrade hub for LTI 1.1 to LTI 1.3, and an upgrade one for legacy to LTI 1.3 as well. And these are both in the document that is in the folder that was shared with users. And with that, I will answer any questions you might have.
I do see a few questions in the chat. There's one from Sean. Sean states that the following doc says 2027. Will there be a grace period or backport to 23?
No. Yeah, all the upgrades for LTI 1.3 will be done for Sakai 25. That will be the support for it. So there's not going to be anything for Sakai 23, unfortunately.
Yeah, we did some testing and it's much cleaner in 25. So that's
Absolutely.
definitely the one to focus on.
And Sakai 25 is incredible. It really is. I'm looking at questions. The integration depends on assignments. Yeah, oh, sorry, Charles put that in there. Sorry about that. Try to read and scroll at the same
Yeah,
time.
if you had a question earlier, if you could re-enter it or maybe come on the microphone, it's hard to scroll up and find them.
Yes, it does return grades to Sakai Gradebook, absolutely. Yes, it is stellar, absolutely.
I thought I
Well,
saw
with
one
these-
from Jennifer earlier. She was asking if you could install the LTI alongside the legacy.
That is actually something there's going to be some drawbacks on that one. So we're trying to work through some of the possibilities on that. The thing is, what we're trying to do is see if there's any way to do some sort of a conversion. I'm not so sure that there is. So what we have to do is figure out what will be the impacts if you try to do it, because if somebody had the integration, they try to do both the legacy integration and LTI 1.3 at the same time on the same assignment, that can be problematic.
Yeah, it looks like Jennifer posted an update that they're on 23 now, so when they switch to 25, they'll just switch integrations.
Sounds good. Sounds like a wonderful plan.
All right. Well, we are out of time, but thank you so much, Stephanie. And please keep an eye out for that webinar. We'll be announcing that later in the fall, where we can spend a lot more time on walking through what it actually looks like in Sakai, and you can ask lots more questions at that point. So thanks again, Stephanie. And I'm going to take over screen share one more time here. To introduce our next speaker, which is Dave Eveland from Johnson University, and he's going to talk to us about the SCORM integration using RISE modules. So let me go ahead and, Dave, I am making you co-host, and you should be able to share your screen.
Can you all see my slides?
Yes, perfect.
Great. So let me go ahead and just be real quick here. I know we have a very brief amount of time, which is one of the reasons why I love these lightning talks. There's just so much packed into a very small, they're almost like a haiku, right? There's so much meaning that can be packed in and investigated later. So in looking at SCORM integration, we looked at SCORM integration several years ago. And we actually rested in on SCORM Cloud, and that was okay for a time. This is before SCORM, the SCORM player was made part of core Sakai, I guess. And it kind of worked okay, but it was really clunky and it was really difficult to use. We hired an instructional designer that was very familiar with RISE by Articulate, and they offer lots of different options for folks to use. But basically, Rise provides a mechanism for creating learning modules, learning content, which is great. There's obviously some things that you can do inside of Sakai. Lessons is amazing. I love when lessons came onto Sakai, it was fantastic. But Rise provides a little bit of interactivity that's a little bit harder to get around or to implement unless you're a programmer or developer. So Rise really allows us to do that. The one problem we ran into with Rise, though, was for the longest time, prior to SCORM being core, there just wasn't a really easy way for us to get it to work. We could always provide a link, and students could get out to the SCORM content. But then, aside from them just clicking the link and going and doing the content, which you hoped they did, the only way to really assess whether or not they engaged with it was to provide a in Sakai native assessment of some sort, so that we could sort of know that they did the stuff or whatever it was. So the Rise content really sort of provided a way to do that. This is just an example. If you want, you can scan the QR code there. This is actually one of the Rise modules that we've actually created that we use in a large majority of our courses to sort of emphasize, particularly on this side of things with regard to AI, when courses should be using AI, that sort of thing, or what things they need to be concerned about with regard to academic integrity and other things. But it's just an example. We've got several other Rise modules that we've actually been able to integrate into other courses. And so let me just kind of go ahead and show you. So Johnson University is a small institution. We're not really big, but we do try and do really good with what we've got. We've been around since 1893, and we have lots of different programs. A lot of programs online, but we also have face-to-face programs. And so we're trying to sort of address how to engage our students with active learning modules, active learning content, both in face-to-face context and also the online context. And so the addition of the Rise modules, the Rise functionality inside of Sakai was really helpful. So the SCORM sort of overview is really just that you've got SCORM is for the shareable content object reference model, really mouthful of words that basically allows you to put content like this inside or link it to your LMS, and then hopefully, particularly because of the things that have to do with LTI, make that sort of stuff function so you don't have to have a separate login, and then you can also hopefully get to a place where you can report data back to the learning management system. Typically, at least for faculty-facing folks, by way of some sort of score. And typically that score can be either a completion score or it can be an assessment score. So they got 80% out of 100 or something of the sort. So inside of Sakai, you can go through and you can add the SCORM player. These, I think, are part of core. I think they're part of core 25. I don't know if they're part of, I think they're part of the core 23 as well. I don't know that for sure because we've just recently upgraded to 23, but we're still using those SCORM modules, those Rise modules inside of our instance. And so that's working really well. But anyways, you would go to Site Info and Manage Tools, and then you can go through and you can select either to add the SCORM player from multiple packages. And most of our courses will have multiple Rise learning modules. It's very rarely that we ever use the single package option. And then if we just went through an upgrade, so we noticed that, and I appreciate Longsight for saying this, but we had to go through and modify our permission set so that faculty could actually add and use those permission, get access to those permissions to add the SCORM multiple package player there in their list of tools in Site Info. So it does pass the grade back. This was a big thing for us when we started. We actually looked at SCORM Cloud several years ago. I said that before, but we also looked at it from the standpoint of if we're creating really good module content and we want students to engage in that, there's very little, it's very difficult for them to make sure they've engaged in that content. And if they haven't, there's no way to really know. Yes, we could look at site stats and look to see if they clicked the link, but that just became really, really cumbersome and inefficient. And so we really need some way to sort of hold students to an accountability of this does impact your grade a little bit, maybe not a lot, but a little bit. And by having that grade pass back, it was helpful. Yes, even with SCORM Cloud, we could go through and we could, transcribe the scores, but that was just a mess. And a lot of our faculty were just like, I don't have time for this. So that grade passback functionality was really, really helpful. But you can go through when you've imported the SCORM object, you can go through in the settings, the options, and you can select to send the score to the gradebook. I will say that when the grade is sent to the gradebook, it sends it to the gradebook if you're using categories or categories in weighting. It just comes into the gradebook in Sakai as an uncategorized item. So there's still some, basic cleanup that you've got to do in terms of, okay, I've got to put it in the right category, but that's not nearly as big of a deal. So to add a SCORM object, or at least for what we've done with Rise, we go to the SCORM player inside of the course. We select to upload a new package using that tab that you see there to the right. And then you choose the file. Typically, it's going to be a zip file as far as I know. And then as far as I know, Sakai prefers to use a SCORM 2004 third edition module. It's about as mouthful of a thing as what SCORM represents. In Articulate, when we're over in Articulate Rise 360, we simply go to the module, we go to Publish, and then we select to export to the LMS. And so then the LMS provides, the LMS options provide us some mechanisms by which we can choose how things are scored, and then also provides that download as a zip file. Now, some of those modules can be pretty large in size. Some of those modules we download from Articulate Rise are like maybe between 20 megabytes and 30 megabytes. Some of them are a lot larger. And so just kind of keep that in mind as far as what you're expecting to pull down and then throw students to. And then after that, we go through and select it's actually inside of, this is what the screen you would see inside of Rise, where you're selecting your LMS, your edition, and then that tracking. In Rise, if you provided an actual quiz or a knowledge check, then it'll score that. But if you're just simply tracking for completion, then you can just use that option that's at the very top. Some of our modules use one or the other. We normally try and tell folks to be very strategic about what they're asking students to accomplish. Some cases, faculty will just use the completion, and then they just mark those items as not visible to students, so that faculty can tell, okay, are the majority of my students actually finishing those modules or not? And so it informs their instruction when they're going through and trying to catch students up on things. And so then when you go through and you add the object inside of Sakai, this is done in that SCORM player. You go through and you can configure the results. And then copy. And this was the thing that took us a little while to figure out. And I appreciate Wilma for pointing this out to us a couple of months ago, I guess. It's just copying and placing the link in lessons. Of course, it could be placed anywhere else, but it's basically right-clicking on the global, like for example, here, there's one on globalization, living in a multicultural world. Right-clicking on that, grabbing that link, and then using the add content link inside of lessons to add it so students can get to it. And you can see there, I'm just doing the same thing there. So, and then once you've got it in, once you've put it in there, then you can go through, I've blurred out the students, but you can see on the left-hand side, you can see that those items come into the gradebook as uncategorized. Whatever you've named your SCORM object that you've gotten from Rise will come in, that looks, at least for us, this is what it looks like. So you can see this particular student has 100 out of 100 and 50 out of 100. I don't remember if those were completion or if they were scores. And then you can see on the right-hand side in the results section of the actual SCORM player, who it was that actually finished it, when they attempted it, and how many attempts they did. And I think you can click on that attempt and you can see what the individual scores are there. Any questions?
All right on time. Does anybody have a quick question? I know there were a few in the chat that were answered already. So if you have another question or if you didn't get an answer, now's your chance.
I'm sorry, I wasn't monitoring the chat at all, so I apologize.
That's okay, we were.
I was monitoring the clock.
Jennifer asks, are these embedded or links students click only?
So yes, they are links. So we add them inside of lessons using the lessons add content link. And then, like I said, we've right-clicked on the SCORM package in Sakai after we add it. So we add it to the SCORM player, right-click on that link, and then we add that particular link using the add content link in lessons. And that's how students get them. It typically will open up in a new tab. And the way we've got the Rise Articulate content configured, there's also an exit lesson or exit button. So it doesn't exit Sakai, it just simply exits the module. And some browsers, it closes the tab, and others, it just stays there because the browser doesn't like to be closed. But it works well for us.
Great. Awesome. Thank you so much, Dave.
Sure.
That was a great and whirlwind tour of SCORM and using those RISE modules. And it is part of core now in 25, so hopefully more people will experiment with it because it is a handy way to bring in content from other authoring tools. So let me take over screen share a final time here for our lightning sessions. And I'm going to introduce our presenters from EDF again. They're doing another short presentation, this time on VS Code. So let's see, Mark, would you like to share your screen or should I give it to Juan?
Yeah, it's me
Yeah,
this time. Yeah.
it's Juanma.
Okay, let me find you in the chat here. Okay. Making you co-host and
I think I do have permission right now. Let me check if I can.
great.
Do you see my screen?
Yes.
Lovely. Okay. So hello everyone. Thank you, Mark, and all the colleagues here for the presentations. I'm trying to encourage you to use VS Code for the IDE for developers, because this presentation is mainly focused on how to debug inside Sakai, and encourage you to use VS Code for programming inside. So the first that we need to do is to enable some configurations inside our Tomcat server. So we need first to go inside our config files. Now I will show how I configured my own properties. And we only need to put this little script that it's only saying that we allow our Sakai to open the Java decoration agent on a specific port. So then later on, I will show you how to connect your IDE to this port. So you can use this powerful tool just to figure out some errors that you have, or you maybe want to check what is wrong or what is right. So you can use it. And then I will show you also some, let's say, functionalities that Visual Studio, being part of Microsoft, gives us to use for customers or maybe colleagues. Then when we have our properties set, I'm going to show you my terminal here. So I'm going to open up my configuration. As you can see here, I have my Catalina base set for deploy folder that I have with all the Sakai files, etc. And then I set up this Catalina opt that I have shown you before. And I have my 8000 port open up and the Java agent port opened. So when we have all this set up, we can move on to the Visual Studio Code. Let me open up again. And first of all, we could check this Jira that we created some weeks ago. We can open up this here. And this is a short explanation how it works, the Visual Studio debugging mode. And also we did an implementation, because when we try to deploy the debug mode, Visual Studio Code creates a JSON file and a folder that is called doc VS Code, as you can see here. So when we try to push some commits or references that we have, maybe we see that the VS Code folder is also being deployed. So we don't want this to do. So we pushed a commit that says that, okay, this type of folder and this config file is not being pushed. So our configuration files are not being shared with the community, because we know that each company or each developer has its own environment to use. So it's more like a private. And here there is a small example that we are going to use for Visual Studio. It's an easy script. It's only saying that we are using Java configuration, because obviously we are working with Sakai, and Sakai uses Java as a programming language. And then we have three additional attributes that are called request, hostname, and port. As you know, if we put it the port to 8000, we need to use it also on our Visual Studio Code. And if we are doing some development on our machine on localhost, we need to set up the host name to localhost. And then lastly, we need to put a request to attach. So then we can access the code. We can trigger, for example, create an assignment. So then Sakai stops when we select, and then we can follow step by step to see if everything is working as expected. Then after seeing this Jira, we can move on to the Visual Studio Code itself. And it's an easy process. We only need to select 3 options. First of all, we need to select the debug mode that we can see it right here. And first of all, we will see that there is no config file on our worksite. So we need to create the launch file JSON. This will create the folder that I mentioned before, and then it will create the launch JSON. Maybe the launch JSON file will be different because Visual Studio is trying to create, let's say, a normal version, but we need to modify it to the one that I mentioned before. Maybe there are more configurations that we can add, but this is for a simple way to debug in Sakai. And as I mentioned in the Jira, we need to modify all the parameters with the port that we set up before, also the host name, the request, etc. So you can, for example, access the Jira, copy and paste it to the new JSON file. So if we move to Visual Studio Code, you will see that I have already this VS Code folder and the launch file, but we can see that it's working fine. And then we only need to go to the debug mode, and we only need to plug the debug using this start button. And then if we want to debug in a specific folder, we only need to select it. For example, I'm on Samigo, the test and quizzes tool. We can go, for example, to text. And then if there is a specific function or specific thing that we want to debug, we only need to select this, for example. And then when we move to the UI and, for example, create an assignment, and we know that this function is going to trigger when we create an assignment, then Sakai will stop here and will say, okay, you have these properties. For example, it will trigger the values of the component variable, the attribute name, and the attribute value. This is very useful because when we are working with Sakai, normally we find some errors that we need to fix, or maybe we are deploying a new functionality. So we need to know that everything is working fine, so we can use debug for these cases. I can go here. So then I will talk about to the dev tunnels that VS Code can use. I don't know if anyone here knows about nrock, but nrock allows us to serve our ports, localhost ports, to internet, because maybe we have a colleague or a customer that would like to access our Sakai environment, but we have our Sakai in localhost. So we can tell VS Code to open this port, and VS Code will offer an address that anyone can access, and they can, for example, test on functionality, any access, or whatever they want. There is only one problem, is that I think maximum 3 people can access these ports, but I think for developing, I don't think that this will be a big issue. You could use nrock, but there are some features that needs to be paid. So in this case, we could work using the dev tunnels. If we move to Visual Studio, we can open up a terminal using this button, New Terminal, and we have the port option. Then we can click on the add port. For example, we are deploying Sakai in 9090. We can set up, this port, and then Visual Studio will deploy an address for the Sakai. So we can, for example, give this address to a customer or colleague, and they could go into Sakai and test whatever we want. Also, we also have a package for let's say different extensions to work with Sakai, because we know that we have a lot of functionalities on ThimeLeaf, Java, a lot of technologies that we use in Sakai. So if anybody is interested with using VS Codes and these extensions, like the email that we shared before, you can ask it for it, and we can share with you if it's anything, if you want. And I don't know what, I cannot access my browser, but I will stop sharing right now. I don't know if anyone has any question.
We are just about out of time, but if anybody has a quick question they want to ask, I know there were a couple in the chat. Let's see. Looks like some of them were answered in the chat as well. So I encourage you to use the chat because we are running just a smidge over time here. We want to give folks at least 5 minutes between sessions. So thank you so much, Juanma. Very interesting presentation. I know a lot of our developer folks were quite engaged in the chat. So again, feel free to use the chat to ask any of those questions that you didn't already get an answer to. And also, I'd like to remind people that the slides for these sessions, if the presenters have made their slideshows available, they're in that shared folder that you can get to within Sakai, the SVC presentation slides. So you can go there to find any presentations or other files that they may have shared with attendees. So we're going to take actually about a 5-minute break because our next presentation starts at 11:45. So I will see you back here in 3 to 5 minutes for optimizing course design. So we'll break until then. Thanks, everybody.